Hello everyone, welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are going to be talking about the books that I've read so far in May. This is the mid-May reading update. I have so far read 6 books this month. So if you've been following for a little bit, I did put up a post last week stating why I was away. I've been a bit burnt out, so I didn't feel like making videos and posting when I wasn't up to it. I am still feeling a little bit low, and that also comes with, unfortunately, we lost a furry friend in our family over the weekend, our dog, Zero. He unfortunately went over the Rainbow Bridge, but we're feeling relieved to know that he was an older dog, so he spent some great time with us. I won't get into that, but I do feel a little bit weird to be trying to be bubbly and stuff, so if I seem a little bit low, that is why. So as I said, I've got 6 books that I've read this month. Only 2 of them are physical books, which is kind of annoying. I was really hopeful that I would have more to show than this little setup that I've tried to create last minute. There's going to be a little bit of shadowing because I did try on my ring light above this, and let me show you. As you can see, it's incredibly bright, and there's the, how's that? We'll make a compromise. There's going to be a little glow here. So as I was saying, 2 of them are physical. I was hoping for more, so this wouldn't be all you see, but let's get straight into it because these videos are always relatively long to edit and also watch. The first book that I finished this month was an ARC, and it is Songs of Sacrament by Nicole Bailey. This is book 2 in the Sirens Call series, and I read the first one earlier this year. Nicole Bailey is fantastic at getting series out like back to back. She'll have all 4 of them out this year. So this is book 2, and this follows along with Lyra. She is a siren, and in book 1 she met up with a group of essentially kind of called a group of misfits, and this was led by Sai. He is a Fae member of the 𝓬𝓱𝓮𝓻 court, and I really liked the whole concept and the heritage behind it. There's an Indian cultural respect and appreciation to this book, given that the 𝓬𝓱𝓮 seem to be based off of Indian culture, which I really have enjoyed. And this book follows along with, I think, 4 to 5 different characters from their point of views, and that is not uncommon for this author. She is always known for having multiple point of views in her books. I really have enjoyed getting to know this world. I gave it 4 stars. I also gave book 1 4 stars. This one is definitely more angstier than the book 1, and I do feel like not a lot happened because there was more focus on character growth rather than like storyline. But what did happen, I enjoyed most of it. I really enjoy Lennox. He's my favourite character so far in the world from book 1 and book 2, and I like that we get to see a lot more of him in this and his storyline and how that weaves into the main group of people. Really enjoying that aspect of it. I did find the angst parts to be quite tiresome. I think that's pretty much the only reason why I gave it 4 stars instead of 5. I just found like it would just get overwhelming at times with the angst, that miscommunication was always at play, but it made sense as to why people weren't talking. So yeah, otherwise I am enjoying this. I will be reading book 3 when it comes into my inbox. I am on the author's street team, so that is why I am reading these in succession. Book 2 I can show you, and if you've been following the channel a little bit, you know that this was something I was supposed to read last year, and I kept putting it on my TBR over and over, and then I never read it. So I've read it now, and I actually read this in mixed form. So I started out reading it in just the physical book, and then my copy of the audiobook came in at the library, and I've been incredibly busy, so it is very fortunate that audiobooks can be played while you're doing things. And I predominantly read this just as an audiobook. I did try to read along as we went through the audiobook, but towards the end I just gave up and just listened to it. I also gave this 4 stars. So this is book 2 in the Defy the Night series by Bridget Kemmermere. And unfortunately my suspicions were correct. I read her other series, the Cursebreaker series, loved book 1, and then the series took a dive with book 2. And I experienced that same feeling with this one. It is just, how to put it, it's not dry, but it just feels tedious. There's a lot going on, a lot of repetitive woe is me moments, and whilst there's focus on some things that were really great, and there are elements in here that are total 5-star elements, I just struggled with the overall storyline with how it went. And like I said, this is something I experienced with Kemmermere's first series that I read by her, so I was very hesitant coming into this one because I thought, oh no, what if it has the second book curse? It does, but it does work out in the end. I did enjoy the story towards the latter parts of the book. I also really enjoyed Fox and who that ends up being, and I actually enjoyed his storyline a whole lot more than I did with Tessa and Corrick on the ship. I did like some of the revelations that came along with the new character, Captain, is it Blakemore? Where is it? Of course it doesn't have his name on the back. I think it's Blakemore. It's Rian anyway. That's the pirate, or I wouldn't even call him a pirate. He comes from another country, the neighbouring country, offering the ability to help with the plague that's breaking out in Kandala, and I really liked him. I also felt like it very much so spent a lot of time with the pissing contest of the love triangle, like both of them, and Tessa wasn't really feeling it. So I'm really glad we got a lot of time spent with Fox and how that storyline progressed, and I'm really looking forward to how that comes together in book 3. I'm hopeful that this will continue to be a series that I enjoy. I really loved Defy the Night. I thought it was great. So I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't give this 5 stars, but 4 stars is still a great read, and like I said, I'm looking forward to book 3. Moving on to the next physical book on the list, and that is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This one is a little bit big, so do apologise that we can't get it all on camera. This is book 1 in the San Sea trilogy, and I've never read from this author before. This follows Luli. She is dealing in relics and illegal magic. She's essentially a criminal, and she is joined by a jinn, and she saves one of the princes in the city that she lives in, and not intentionally knowing that it was a prince at first. So essentially she's blackmailed into helping the Sultan find a hidden or lost lamp in the lead in the Sand Sea, and that leads to the Jinn City, and the whole goal is to try and destroy the Jinn. Obviously there's a lot more that goes on than that. We get 3 point of views through the book: Luli, the prince that she saves, Mazin, and Aisha, who is she works for the other prince, the older prince, and his band of 40 thieves. Is that what they're called? The 40 thieves? Gosh, I can't remember. Doesn't say. So this is based off the 1001 Nights and the tales of that, and a sort of Aladdin type-esque, but I don't really feel like that's a correct established line here, but essentially the basis of it is there with the lamp and everything like that. I did not enjoy this. I gave it 3 stars in the end because I liked the ending, and I stupidly have an interest in wanting to know what happens next, which is very clever on the author's part to get that, but I didn't enjoy it. It's very dry, it is very pointless, the characters have no depth. The only character I did like was the Djinn, and he is amazing, and I really had hoped that, well, I already knew from the start it wouldn't happen, but I would have liked for a relationship between 𝓬𝓲𝓷𝓭 and the Djinn. What is his name? See, this is how bad it is. I read this recently and I cannot remember the names. Oh no, he was my favourite character too. What is his name? 𝓬𝓬𝓬. And so, yeah, I really wanted them because they were the only 2 that had some sort of connection that made sense, and I could see a romance working between them quite well, but it's more of a familial role, and 𝓬𝓲𝓷𝓭 is very much so hung up on someone who comes into the storyline quite pointlessly, and then towards the end a romance is sort of hinted at between the prince and 𝓬𝓲𝓷𝓭, but it's very much a subplot, if a plot at all, and I just found that I had no interest in the characters anyway to see them get together. From a fantasy aspect, it's very serviceable. It does what it says. It is set in the desert. You get a lot of fantastical happenings with jinn and magic and just that great Arabian Night-esque type of storyline. But again, the storyline is so buried under pointless scenes and character development. So if we can really say character development happened. But I am giving it 3 stars because I did enjoy the ending and like I have an interest in it. I was battling between 2.5 and 3, but the writing as well, it's just not engaging. It's done well. There's no massive holes in the storyline, so I can't say anything but it was okay. After reading 𝓤𝓏 last month, so The Adventures of 𝓤𝓏 𝓐𝓲, coming on to another Middle Eastern set fantasy or something like that is not, I think it wasn't going to work anyway. So I think we were still very much so on a hype. We read this for book club, so anything after 𝓤𝓏 was probably going to fail a little bit, but still on its own I didn't really enjoy it. It was just serviceable. It was just okay. If you're not looking for the things that I were in a fantasy novel, then by all means I think this would be a good read, but I just felt unconnected to the characters, therefore unconnected to the storyline. Okay, now we get on to my first 5-star read of the month, and that is The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. I got this as an e-arc. It is out, oh gosh, I think today, and I have yet to write my review. That's just reminded me, whoops. So essentially this is book 2. It comes after the Soulmate Experiment. They never planned on making this a series, but everyone wanted to know what happened in Fizzy, who is Jess's best friend in the main book. They wanted to know her story. So that is what this is. It follows Fizzy. She is a romance author. She gave up a corporate job to become a romance author, and she has spent most of her adult life living it up, in the sense of she doesn't do relationships. She just meets people, has a great time, definitely knows her tropes, definitely knows the type of guys that she wants to have some fun with. She's not opposed to having sex and getting it on and all that, like having a good time with men. And she does a speech at the start of the book for a group of people that are graduating from university, and she does a speech about how you need to look for something in your life, and she realized at that point she was saying things that she didn't have either, and she became quite aware of how much she was lacking in her life by living this fun and exuberant lifestyle. Now, as 37 years old, she feels like it's not catering to her needs. She goes through an entire year of doing absolutely nothing romantic or writing wise, and she is quite miserable. She gets approached by the main male character. His name is Connor, and he asks her to do a reality dating show, and she is the main star in it, and that is the premise of this book. At first I didn't enjoy it. I found Fizzy to be I liked her, but I also didn't like the way she spoke or thought about some things, but that's just personal interest, and I didn't connect to that at first. But as you get through the book and her character develops into who she becomes and how she feels and how she expresses herself, vulnerabilities and all that, I really got engaged in it. I liked Connor. At first I was, again, a bit on the fence about him. So he is a British man. He is a solo father in the sense of him and his wife divorced, and they raise their daughter together, and he is doing the reality dating show because he's forced to by his production company if he was to continue on with his own production of conservation and all those kinds of studies. So he is forced into it, and he comes up with this idea. So Fizzy thinks that if she gives the most outlandish reasonings to, or like stipulations to the contract, that he will back out of it, because she doesn't think much of him at first. Obviously he goes through with it, and it becomes a show, and they are already falling for each other before the show begins, and it's really interesting to see how they go throughout this portion of their lives, both liking each other and knowing that it can affect their careers if they break out of the contracts that they're in. I really liked the storyline. It's nothing heavy, but I did like the approach to romance and finding your person even in the wrong situation and how you navigate that. I think it was really well done. I enjoyed this so much, and I gave it 5 stars. One of the prompts that I had this month, and it was the letter generator, I got J, so I picked this book here, Johnny Be Good by Paige Toon. I DNF'd it at page 40, I think. Well, not even that, probably. I did not enjoy this. This is going to be unhauled. And then I spent about an hour trying to find a book that I could hire from the library that started with a J. I tried 3. I didn't enjoy 2 of them, and then I just went through with book number 3 to the end because it was only 200 pages long or something along those lines. So that's prefacing the fact that I gave this 2.5 stars. It's not the type of book that I would have read and continued on with if I didn't have the prompt, but I wanted to try really hard this month to fulfill my prompts. So on one hand, I don't recommend reading books you don't enjoy. I am very much so an advocate for DNFing if you aren't enjoying something, but I wanted to finish this. God damn it, I put a lot of effort into it, and I ended up with Just Not Into Billionaires by Annika Martin. This is actually book 6 in a series, but it can be read as a standalone, and I was like, it was like a train wreck in a sense of it's not my type of writing, it's not my type of story. The characters are both quite toxic towards each other in the beginning, but I want to know what happens next. Like, surely it can't like improve or get worse than this kind of mentality. And I actually ended up fighting between giving it 3 or 2.5 stars, but towards the end I realised that it was just not my cup of tea and gave it that. So I actually really enjoyed the main male character. His name is Benny, and he is the billionaire, but he was actually, when he was younger, quite unable to express himself. Clearly he has some level of anxiety, and also perhaps a level of neurodivergence, but he just couldn't relate to people. He couldn't understand the way people were. He was felt like on the outside of everything, and he very much so liked Francine when they met 10 years prior to the present day, and they end up getting drunk in Vegas and having a wedding that she can never remember. And she's trying to fly overseas she's a ballerina, and she's got her big break finally. She's going to have a solo act in the tour, and unfortunately for her, she essentially lied on her visa papers saying she was single when there is a marriage certificate, and she has no idea that she's married. So she ends up contacting Benny, and they find out that they are indeed married from Vegas, and he won't give her a divorce unless she pretends to be his wife for some reasons. That's where it gets quite toxic, the relationship between them and what they want that way. Very toxic to me. And the way they treat each other, very weird. But essentially she's got 3 weeks with him, and then he'll give her the papers so she can go on the tour. A lot happens in this, some good, some bad, but I did like the fact that he had gone to therapy and tried to find ways and tactics to help with the fact that he's so unable to be around people without having these nervous tics or something like that. And I appreciated how she brought out the older version in him, the one that wasn't as restrained, and how she kept trying to reach for that when they had intimate moments, when he would sort of shut off and turn back into almost the perfect robot from what he'd learned from his tactics. I liked seeing that there were different parts to him with how he reacted to his emotions, and how that was sometimes not controllable. I did enjoy that part of it, but I did find the whole premise and the whole storyline not to be my thing. So I'm not going to say anything more, because I feel like it wasn't unfair on the book for me to come along and have a great opinion on it when it was just simply servicing a prompt. But I didn't enjoy it. And the final book on my list today is Queen Bee by Emily Howard. Now, I read her book last month. That's in the new series, and I thought it was a debut novel. What was it called? Something about the Dukes. Let me quickly check that up. Always Be My Duchess. It's Taming of the Dukes, book number 1, and I thought it was her debut novel. I went on to Goodreads after filming that video when I said I think it was her debut, and found out she actually had some other books, and I put her YA book on hold at the library. It came in, and I listened to it as an audiobook all in one day, and I absolutely enjoyed it. This follows Lyra, second Lyra for today, and it's told from the present point of view, which is in 1817, and then also starting from 3 years prior, under a different name. So Lyra's real name is actually Ela, or Ayla is how the audiobook said it, but I would pronounce it as Ela. And she is the daughter of an earl who is suffering financially. Her mother has passed. She has a best friend, and she's a bit of a wallflower. She doesn't like to stand out very much, and when she has a best friend who very much so does, and you find that her previous self was led to ruination and also treated horribly by this best friend, and she assumed, because no one stood up for her, especially her good friend in the Duke's son, who's the main male character in this story, Keston. He didn't stand up for her, and she ended up being taken away from her father. She's now back 3 years later under a different name as an heiress, and she has decided on revenge. She wants to take on the best friend who is now the queen, essentially, of the ton, of this year's ton. She thinks that she's going to be great in every way. And she's decided that she's not only going to take her down, but she's going to prove to 𝓬𝓲 that he made a huge mistake in underestimating her. Obviously, she's gone through a lot, and to take on this personality and this type of revenge is very much so out of her character, but she spends a lot of time feeling hurt and betrayed by everything that happens. And I really enjoyed the back and forth. I enjoyed seeing why she was led to so much anger and fueled in this way to want to take on not only going under another name, but also trying to take out these people who have done her wrong. I thought it was fantastically balanced between the good and bad. So I liked the fact that her morals would attack her at points when she was starting to feel different ways about things in the present with both friends that she makes and also with 𝓬𝓲. I liked the tension between them, both when they were younger and also now in a more adult situation. So they are 18, I believe, at this point, and he's 19, or 17 and 18. And yeah, I really liked it. It felt very well put together, like the storyline, the character development, everything very Bridgerton, but set without a whole bunch of sex, which can sometimes make or break a romance for me. So I liked the tension and the banter between her and 𝓬𝓲, 𝓤𝓲 and 𝓬𝓲, and I liked the process of their reconnection and how that went, without him even knowing that she was 𝓬𝓲. However, I was really also happy that the romance was just as it was. I didn't need anything more, and I did find that the tension and the steaminess of the other book that I read that is adult was good and very well done, and I could see that being done well with this as well if this was new adult. But as a YA, I thought it was fantastically done, and I enjoyed that a great deal. So I gave it 5 stars, and I'm very much so excited for what's to come next. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I mentioned at the start of this video that I was going to try and edit it and get it all up on the same day, but when you watch this, it'll most likely be another day. I have got tomorrow free, so I'm going to probably spend tomorrow editing this and putting it up for you. But thank you again so much for spending some time with me today. I hope that you enjoyed hearing about these books. Let me know if you've read any of them. If you had differing opinions, I'd love to hear your thoughts as to why. And if you had the same opinions, that'd be great too. We can chat about them in the comments section below. And until next time, hopefully I'll have a video out on Sunday. I'm going to skip Thursday's video this week just because I'm still getting into the swing of things. And I'm going to assume that Sunday's video will be me setting up the next month. Oh my god, June. My reading journal. I have no idea. It's a romance month. If you've got any ideas, let me know below, but for now I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have to think on that one. So again, thank you for spending some time with me today, and I'll see you in a new video sometime very soon. Bye everyone!